Hello and welcome to my talk on stakeholder engagement in cybercrime law. First and foremost, thank you to the International Digital Security Forum for giving me the floor to present my work and also demonstrate why and how technology companies, NGOs, civil society, academia, and other experts need and must engage in policymaking and implementation to balance sovereignty and solidarity in the digital age. Today, under the title Building Bridges, Speaking Up and Keeping Watch, I will focus on the United Nations Cybercrime Convention. The United Nations General Assembly adopted the document on 24 of December last year. I had been participating in the negotiations first as civil society member, then as a UNODC expert, and finally as a lead of the Stakeholder Working Group on Cybercrime at the Alliance of NGOs on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice. So let's start with measuring the room temperature here. Show your hands how many know what the Cybercrime Convention is and that it exists. Just raise your hand. Who knows about Cybercrime Convention at the UN? Quarter. So let me tell you, this is the document which will have far-reaching consequences of how states cooperate in the fight against cybercrime and exchange electronic evidence across the world. Because this is the first global treaty of its kind. And the topic of this year's IDSF, the focus on sovereignty and solidarity in the digital age, is critical. It's critical because through that lens, we can examine how cybercrime law both empowers and constrains these values. Because international efforts such as Cybercrime Convention can both strengthen international cooperation and enable criminal justice systems to respond to current challenges and evolving threats. But they can also raise deep concern about data sovereignty, state surveillance, and the impacts on vulnerable and targeted individuals. And the risk of the regulatory and law enforcement overreach and the exclusion of outside voices in shaping digital governance is very real. For example, free speech may be restricted if the provisions are applied in a discriminatory manner, and expansive data exchange can lead to unprecedented surveillance and exchange of evidence across borders. And we have already seen it in many places around the world, how cybercrime legislation is misused to these purposes. Having a global treaty can multiply reach of governments, for better or worse. This broad scope and global reach make necessary that stakeholders actively engage in treaty implementation and make sure it's effective, transparent, and inclusive as it can be. Civil society, NGOs, the private sector, academia, and the technical community provide substantive expertise on cybercrime issues and enhance states' responses. I will give you two concrete examples. First of all, private sector. Private sector is the owner and the provider of digital infrastructures and services. Private sector has high-level information about cybercriminal patterns and tactics, and they help inform states' approach to enforcement to target cybercrime, to fight cybercrime in a way that increases the relevance and how they tackle the most immediate and the most severe cybercrimes when there is lack of resources. Second example, the new Cybercrime Convention also includes provisions on tackling non-consensual sharing of intimate images. We have seen that partnerships with NGOs and social media platforms really help to retrace images to hashes and take them down from online platforms. These organizations are working closely with the victims, and states cannot have effective responses to such crimes without partnering across private sector and across NGOs who understand the landscape. These contributions have been recognized when the convention was negotiated. However, the good practice was not reflected in procedures set forth in treaties implementation. Given the wide-ranging powers afforded by the convention, the weak and non-binding language that we now see for the implementation, including oversight and review mechanisms, is deeply worrying. The convention must give a clear role to non-state actors. The treaty seems to have it both ways. States want multinational tech companies to provide the tools technology, equipment, training, but they also want strong powers to compel these companies to do as governments wish, as they want little oversight over this instrument. It's far less likely, purely practically, that engagement will happen on technical assistance if the ability to monitor and have an impact on treaty norms and policy is lacking. So let me be proactive now. How can we build bridges, speak up, and keep watch? At the Alliance of NGOs, we believe in the power of joint action. And this is why in February this year, we have established a working group on cybercrime to bring together actors and pool resources together, so we have higher capacity to engage on these issues. There are two key objectives for the working group, which I have the pleasure of leading. First of all, to serve as an advocacy and coalition-building network to promote transparent, inclusive, and human rights-respecting implementation of the Cybercrime Convention and ensure inclusive stakeholder participation in related consultations and capacity-building efforts. Secondly, to be an information-sharing hub to facilitate exchanges between the United Nations, member states, international organizations, and networks, and provide timely updates on developments related to the Convention, including engagement opportunities, not only in multilateral international fora, but also on regional and national level. So the working group will also provide a platform for expert briefings, because we need to raise the capacity and awareness in the community. We need to deepen understandings and foster collaboration among members and others, the public, on cybercrime issues. And I'm happy to announce that the first briefing will be by a renowned international expert on fighting sextortion. Sextortion is spreading worldwide, and it severely impacts young men. Finally, let me conclude with this. There is currently no accessible tool to monitor how states revise their cybercrime laws and to inform the international community about the opportunities for engagement, whether in consultative processes related to cybercrime legislation or the capacity-building efforts or the monitoring. This gap hinders both effectiveness and transparency, and stakeholder engagement must be supported in these processes. It helps with the accountability, and it helps with targeted responses. So the working group looks for partners to launch Cybercrime Law Monitor to track the Cybercrime Convention's implementation and related legislation, because this document will have impact across national jurisdictions around the world. And the Cybercrime Law Monitor will be a tool to map the ratification and implementation processes of the Convention, including relevant UN regional and national consultations, so experts can actively engage. And also with their constrained resources, they know when and how to engage with the most impact. It will also analyze key cybercrime-related legislative developments across jurisdictions, so we understand what is the impact of the Convention. At the Alliance of NGOs, we strive to keep the community informed and engaged, to raise awareness, capacity, and power to mobilize when needed and with a strong effect. So let me wrap up on this. The UN Cybercrime Convention represents a landmark global effort to harmonize legal responses and facilitate cross-border cooperation. However, tracking the framework's impact and ensuring the Convention is ratified and implemented in an effective, transparent, and human rights respecting manner across jurisdictions presents major challenges. And we must be ready to build bridges, speak up, but also keep watch to have impact. Thank you.